The issue of costings. I've worked on election campaigns. Costings are incredibly important. They are the promises that you make as a political party and the demonstration that what you cost a particular policy at stacks up, and that you can then deliver it, and that the overall macro budget numbers are there and it's transparent to the taxpayer. I've never seen an election campaign where the issue of costings is so removed from the debate. Now, the government's just had a budget. Its costings are pretty clear. Labor's under no pressure to put its costings out. Indeed, it said it won't put them out until next week, until after the Liberal Party's launch on Sunday. Do we not care about debt and deficit anymore?
I think that's the sad truth. Apparently we don't. As you know, Peter, I think this has been a very debased campaign on both sides. Honestly, I don't think either of them deserves to be elected. Although I wouldn't advocate voting for a minor party, because that way lies chaos. But how is the Liberal Party having its campaign launch 1 week before, or 6 days before the vote? I mean, the English language, launch means something that you start with. You know, I'm old enough to remember when campaign launches came at the beginning of campaigns. It is true that the government has provided a budget, therefore its costings are there. But honestly, even the budget's figures are so ropey and ridiculous. All these defence dollar amounts the government is promising, they're all off in la-la land, long past the forward estimates. They have no meaning at all. And I think that Labor is certainly guilty of not providing its costings, but I think the whole political culture has become detached from reality. Labor and Liberal alike are both just promising an infinite amount of money for an infinite amount of programs. You know, everything from dog parks. Look, I've got a $50 million program. I just haven't flagged with the government yet. I'm sure they'll give me the money. They're giving it to everybody else. And I think the whole of the campaign has completely lost touch with fiscal reality. And there's going to be a shocking hangover from this. We're going to wake up one day when a third of our budget is going to go to servicing the debt and we can't do anything. And we're going to say, well, how did we go from being the richest country in the world to being so savagely in hock? And I think this campaign has not been spiteful or hateful, and it hasn't been completely fantasy like the Philippines presidential campaign, but it's been detached, completely detached from fiscal reality.
And of course, it's not the government's money. I mean, I hear that phrase talked about a lot in the media, the government's spending this and the government's money here. It's our money. It all has to be paid back. And there is a point in time, and I have to keep reminding people that when the cost of money increases, Australia will be paying back as an interest payment, like we both do with our mortgages, Greg. We'll be paying back $15, $20 billion a year. And just like our mortgage interest, that's dead money. That's money we could spend on hospitals and roads and schools. But we've got this debt burden now for the next 30 or 40 years.
Absolutely. And it doesn't get better by itself. It only gets better if you then get the budget into a primary surplus so that your current expenditure is less than your current intakes. And then you've got to pay off some of the interest. So you've got to have a big surplus in order to pay off some of the interest. Now, in the past, governments short-circuited that by privatising assets, but we've privatised most of the assets. There's nothing left to sell, and what you end up then is you're paying interest on your interest on your interest. And we are a naturally rich country because we're a commodity exporter and commodities are expensive. But we're not guaranteed a living. You know, the world doesn't guarantee us a living. We could end up... we're not part of a natural trade bloc. We're not part of the European Union. You know, we're not buttressed. We don't have the reserve currency of the world like the United States does. We could easily go back to our old history of a currency crisis, stagflation. Meanwhile, we've got massive national security demands upon us. Nobody, the Liberals are as bad about this as the Labor Party. No one is going to go anywhere near reforming boondoggles like the NDIS or the grotesque amounts of money that we've wasted on not improving our education system one scintilla. All of that is, you know, anybody who does raise any of this stuff, like Matt Canavan, they're like the skunk at the party. You know, they're in very bad taste.
No, Greg.
Scott Morrison was telling all the candidates to tell Matt Canavan to pull his head in. How dare he raise reality in a national election campaign?
I've got to leave it here, but I tell you what, this is the most sobering journalistic conversation that's been had in the campaign. This is the stuff we should be having front and centre as Australians go to the polls, so that we have a sense and a better understanding of where the country's likely to head under either Mr Albanese or Mr Morrison. Instead, we're not. We're into gotcha moments and a whole lot of rubbish. Greg Sheridan, thank you as always.